Hello and welcome to 4 Sevens, a podcast hosted by Alex Box from mathsplay.org and Marissa Cashmore from Motivating All Maths Learners to Succeed. 4 Sevens is a 7-part series exploring and sharing different ways to learn maths through play.
The International Day of Maths is a global celebration of mathematics that falls on the 14th of March. In 2024, the theme will be Playing with Maths, and so we thought what better way to support this important theme by bringing together a range of maths teaching and learning professionals to share and discuss playful, positive and powerful ways to engage and connect with mathematics.
We hope that, when listening, you find the conversations valuable as we endeavour to inspire you with a range of stories, perspectives and many practical ways to explore and play with maths.
Before we get stuck into the episode, we'd like to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners of the lands on which this podcast was created and is being listened to. We pay respect to elders past and present and recognise the contributions of all First Nations peoples to the land we live, learn and play on. In this episode, we chat with Ryan Evans to learn more about his passion for using Lego to teach STEM concepts and a bit about what he learned from his time on Lego Masters. In addition to the podcast conversation, you can find links in the show notes to short video conversations where Ryan shows some super cool examples of robotics using Lego. We'd like to thank Ryan and his daughter Charlotte for taking time out of their Saturday for this chat. An experienced and practicing teacher, a digital technology and STEM specialist, founder of Brickulum. He's also been a Lego Masters finalist a couple of times, but I mean, whatever. No, obviously that's really cool. It's probably important just to clarify that this episode is not sponsored by Lego in any way, shape or form. But
even though it should be. That's my tagline on
Yeah. Yeah, we thought we might start just with a little bit of an entree. So we kind of like the idea of these podcasts as a bit of a convo feast. And so before we jump into the main meal of using Lego to teach maths, we were curious about how you got into Lego. What's your personal Lego history? Do you have an earliest Lego memory, for instance?
I do. In fact, I got asked this yesterday, what was my first set? And I couldn't actually answer that, but I can definitely say the first set that I really, absolutely loved was this little push-along train, 7715. And I got it for Christmas. And cheekily, I knew that my parents had bought it for me, and I had snuck into the cupboard a couple of times to imagine play with it. But yeah, that was my first memory. But yeah, I did sort of fade out with my Lego interest in early high school. Grew my hair long, started playing guitar. Definitely didn't want to be playing with Lego then. But I had children young, and when my boy was about 2 or 3, I got back into it, and he's now 23. So, yeah, that's when you start doing the numbers, you go, wow, I've been doing it quite a while.
Well, I'm developing an appreciation for Lego in general. Does that make me an adult fan of Lego?
I reckon it does. I reckon there's degrees of adult fandom,
okay.
as you would say. There's in Star Wars that you can appreciate the show,
right.
And you can like some of the merchandise, or you can absolutely dress up like Darth Vader and go to conventions. So there's degrees.
Yeah, I haven't got that far.
Yeah, come along to Brickvention in January.
Brickvention.
Yeah,
oh, very, very cool.
That was actually where I made that realisation. I brought along a couple of little buildings as part of the train club. And then I was like, wow, this is really big. And that was I guess, the first little bite of the cake that got me really into becoming an adult fan and building something competitively. And then, started to do find my niche. Originally it was with like Batman, but everybody built Batman. And discovered it with Thomas the Tank Engine, of all things. Nobody had really done good, inverted commas, good Thomas. And then I started to get a little bit Lego famous for building Thomas pretty well. And so I built some other trains and built the whole island of Sodor. And got a few little awards or commendations. So when they said there's going to be a competitive TV program, I was like, all right, give it a go. Yeah.
That is
the
cool.
first.
So a good Thomas being like kind of a good quality Lego Thomas, is that what you mean?
Yeah, so I guess when we're building things out of Lego, we're trying to make it as accurate as possible. So trying to make it look when you look at it, you go, that looks like whatever the realistic thing is. And Thomas the Tank Engine is fairly straightforward design. I was very surprised that nobody had really gone that far with it. But I guess Duplo had made, Lego had made a Duplo version of Thomas. So when people were building their ultra-realistic, Flying Scotsmans and whatever else, to get the kids engaged, they just put a motor underneath a Duplo train, off it would go. So I guess, and a few people had done a few bricky built things that were a bit, think 1980s, just like a lot of house bricks and stuff like that. But I actually just turned these round bricks on their side and made a boiler, and then a couple of little tanks, and okay, then had some stickers, made it look a bit fancy. Really isn't that impressive a build, but it was, I guess, the first of that style, and it just sort of went.
He says it's not impressive.
Yeah, so obviously...
I actually do take it to schools
with,
as part of the Brickulum thing that I do. I'll bring along a version of the piano from the show, and I bring little Thomas, because obviously a lot of kids love Thomas. And then, tell the story that this really was what made me stand out in the Lego community.
Let's get into main menu.
You want to get to the main menu.
Yeah. So let's start with that first one there.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate Lego into a maths lesson?
Oh, how do you not? I don't know. Look, I see Lego as an excellent medium for pretty much anything. You can build any kind of lesson, no pun intended, but you can actually use it to springboard any kind of information, any kind of discovery you want kids to be engaged in. And I guess the same way that for example, to use the fractions one, you could spend hours laminating bits of cardboard. You could get Cuisenaire rods. You could get tangrams and things like that. And they're all, I guess, manipulatives that we have some level of familiarity with, that and kids have probably seen, if they're lucky, 2 or 3 times in a year. Whereas Lego is something that they've been mucking around with, that they've got their hands on. They understand the system. So you can pretty much start, as soon as you've got the Lego tubs out, they're engaged. So they will go that extra mile with it. And you say, let's build something. Okay, and now let's look at how tall is it? How do we compare them? Is there a different way to use the same bricks to make something taller or shorter? And what's the largest volume we can make out of 10 bricks, for example? So I guess it's to me, it's more of the possibilities are truly endless.
So do you feel like you could teach almost any maths concept with Lego, or...?
There's probably some limits.
Yeah, right.
I remember back in high school asking my maths teacher, I can't remember what year it was, but I said, can you give me a physical model of negative times a negative equals a positive? Can you tell me how, give me something concrete for that? And I'm still yet to come up with one. It is one of those mathematical systems that, you can have a negative this and negative that, times it by a positive and therefore whatever. But yeah, it's just one of those magical things that works out in maths. But I don't know if I could do that in Lego.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely great ways, particularly through primary school curriculum. There's just so many ways that you can incorporate Lego, and even if it starts as a general building, a STEM sort of challenge, and then you can draw out the mathematical information, you can draw out the literacy elements, and write a story about it, and then let's do some numbers.
Yeah, that's typically how we've been playing around with maths teaching and learning, this idea of starting with play, having time to play, having time to create or build with whatever the manipulative may be, and then help the kids identify some maths, and then that then might shape some upcoming lessons.
Totally.
Then there's that ownership too.
Yeah, you got it in one there. It's the ownership is totally key, I think, to like when you're building with Lego, and like even so jumping forward with the robots, I've named the robots rather than just calling it Robot 1, Robot 2 or Robot AB. They've got names, and the kids will bond with it. And then the next time we play with them, they'll go back to Eddie, brought along Edison. I've got one kid that'll be very, very happy that I brought out Edison along to the podcast. But they bond with their product, their thing, and then they get to
Is that Edison?
No, the robot's Edison, but they love the bugs too. Like they could have just been little boxes with rings on the top, but instead they're bugs.
Oh, that's so cool.
Come collect a lift and a bug. Like, what? Bugs?
So I might jump on that answer. At the Big Day Maths Play conference, you attended my conference where I used wooden blocks to help teach fractions and division. And I did notice how enthusiastic you were in that session. And you sort of talked about how you could use Lego to teach fractions. Did you want to talk about that and give us an example?
Look, and I want to say I absolutely loved your session, and I wouldn't say, ditch everything else, do everything in Lego. I'd say Lego is absolutely an option. But yeah, like there's lots of, I guess I'm trying to remember our particular session. What was the fractions?
So we had some blocks, and I asked everyone to separate them into 4 groups, and then we talked about that's 1 quarter, that's 2 quarters, and then we did 3 groups, and how do we make sure that there's an equal amount in each group, and that's how we know it's a quarter or a third. And yeah, you were very enthusiastic, and then you sort of said, I can see us doing this with fractions.
Yeah. So I remember that now. Yeah. So sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, I guess the benefit with the Lego is that you can obviously stack them in different collections very, very easily, and you want to reorganize 3 by 7. Oh no, 7 by 3, and that's a fraction of the total. You can keep them in little buildable stacks. I guess is one of the benefits of using the Lego bricks.
And there's some special language, isn't there, around the Lego attributes? Is it studs that you call the little dots on the top?
Yes, little dots on the top are studs, and we often refer to them as arrays, actually. 2 by 4, 2 by 6, 1 by 3, 1 by 5, 1 by 7, whatever. Actually, no, there's no 1 by 7. I should admit.
The start of a lesson might be grab 5 3 by 2 blocks, or if that's even one of them, 3 by 2, 2 by 3. Is there a 2 by 3?
You tend to go 2 by 3.
6 studs.
Yeah, and it is funny because some kids will identify this as an 8 stud brick.
Okay.
And they'll go, it's 8 dots or whatever. But yes, to most of us in the Lego community, we'd call them a 2 by 4. But then we can discuss how we all name them differently. Because I guess the reason I don't look at that as being an 8 stud brick is that you can also have a linear 8. So 1 by 8 would be an 8 stud brick as well.
So you can teach fractions. Multiplication appears to be embedded in the everyday use of Lego conversations, which is
Definitely.
Cool. What else have you done, or what other ideas can you share with us around how to teach maths concepts using Lego?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I love is just some simple challenges that you can do with just a small number of bricks, because that's one of the biggest detractions. And I mean, maths resources are expensive, but we can tend to find them from different rooms and make a good set. Obviously, lots of good things you can make yourself as well. But Lego it's expensive. There's no two ways about it. You can get bulk lots from people and whatever else, but it's still, even that's an expensive way of acquiring. But you can do a lot of things with just a small number. And I guess this is one of my favourites, is that you hand everybody 10 bricks and you go, what's the tallest tower you can make? So it's a measuring activity, obviously counting when you've just got the 10 bricks, double checking all the time. And the logical one is, of course, you might get a few people that'll build it like that, a few people that'll build it sort of like that. So 4, 3, 2, 1. A lot of maths in that too. Triangular maths. Yeah, love triangular maths. So lots of discussions around that. But then you go, is there enough? Can you make a taller one? And occasionally you will get a kid that's still just using 2 by 4s.
Wow.
Will do that. So it is, instead of building the studs up, we have this wonderful technique, and kids love saying it, snot. Studs not on top.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Snot.
So it's... Yeah, technically we like to... Snot is actually a brick that has still studs on the top, but also has studs on the side. But the whole thing is building on the side. So this is, entirely... It's just literally... normally we build our bricks that way, horizontally. Now we're building them vertically. But then you can say, well, if you've got a couple of boxes of Lego, so well, now you can swap them for any bricks. And so you might get kids that'll swap some of those 2 by 4s for 2 by 6s and 2 by 8s. And all of a sudden we're a bit taller again. Kids love this one. This was called the, I think it was the rabbit ear technique or the horse ear technique, where they jam a plate in between 2 studs, and then you can just put all these little the longest plates they can find. And yeah, you can very quickly see that 10 parts, I mean not 10 bricks, doesn't have to be limited to.
Yeah. And I can see, like, my brain's just going now from a maths perspective and a maths teacher perspective is now what is the value of each of these towers based on the studs?
Totally.
Yeah. So instead of it being about the tallest, it could then be about the most valuable tower that's there.
The most stud rich.
Yes.
Or something.
Stud rich. Yeah.
You could
The
even
possibilities
now
are endless, aren't they?
make it into the smallest thing you can now.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got a benefit with the plates where they'll stack nicely, but it still is quite large.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden to try and make the smallest item, now your brick selection has really impacted what you can do with volume.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
It's you know that I have this thing about putting up your learning intention.
Yeah.
And I find that can be a really incredible way to, for those kids that are struggling to put concepts together. But for everybody else, it can be such a limiting factor. Like straight away, this was a measurement challenge. It was a height challenge. And if we're just the learners in the room, all of a sudden we've just gone into a concept that hasn't been part of our learning intention. You probably wouldn't have said it to me if I'd put up on the board, we're trying to get the highest tower.
Yeah.
What's the longest we can make out of 10 items?
Yeah.
And that would be an exploration. And then we get into, that made me think of volume, like what's the smallest package I can make it? Just that lesson just all of a sudden became 10 times richer, 10 times more meaningful. And
because we didn't limit it with one.
That's my own bugbear of teaching maths.
So even these 10 brick challenges really reek of STEM to me, right?
Oh.
Like I'm not a STEM specialist like you, but this is a STEM activity, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've had an interesting discussion recently about identifying the separate parts of STEM and teaching them in isolation. You kind of can't. It really is something that supports something and you can focus on one element of it. We can have an engineering challenge, but you can't do an engineering challenge without having some mathematical component in it. Without the physics will get in the way. Sorry, but science will impact how you can engineer that thing to make it happen. So I guess, STEAM. Generally speaking, I said, I'm definitely more STEM than STEAM because despite using Lego as an artistic medium, none of our builds look very pretty at the end. I said, it's not an aesthetics challenge. Get away from the aesthetics.
I feel like the aesthetics is more in your design, isn't it? But then design can come down to your engineering as well. So
one of my favourite challenges that I do with schools is we build the bridge challenge, and depending on the grade level, it might be 80 centimetres wide, it might be 100 centimetres wide, and I don't tell them at the start, and I'm like, how do you not predict this? Then we do a weight challenge. How much weight can it take? And of course, if they've had some sort of inkling that this is going to have to sustain some weight, any ideas of putting a little car driving across, that's out the window. They've only got an hour-ish to build it. So it's just slam any colour bricks, long, layer it, sandwich things together, create as much strength as you possibly can so that it will actually stand up over that metre gap. So thankfully, in that short time, the artistic component and even the time to really thoroughly design.
So is that the kind of stuff that you do with your Brickulum incursions, like building bridges and
one
STEM?
of them,
Okay.
It's only been 11-ish months, 10 months since running it, but just have been building up activity after activity after activity that can be engaged in a short period of time. Like the tower is often my warm up activity because I'm always about group work. I think you can learn so much more together, and there's always a kid or two kids like, can we just work by ourselves, or can we just work? So, well, yes, you can, but your output will not match the groups that have got 4 to 8 people that are focused. And then at the end of it, there's always a group. Oh, we got the highest. Wait, that wasn't the challenge. I said you needed to get a metre high, and the bonus challenge was to get it taller than me. But that was not the challenge. Wasn't the biggest. The challenge was actually working together because you're going to need it for the next challenge. And it'll be a bridge or, there's lots of different things. There's wearable Lego, hanging brick.
Wearable Lego.
Yeah, well, I'm just noticing Brian's shoes right now.
What?
Yeah, he's got Lego shoes on.
It's funny.
I'll have to grab a photo and pop it in the show notes.
Oh my gosh.
I love that.
We're all looking. Derek's looking from over there. Wow.
Yeah. And there's a part of me that wants to grab a brick and see if it attaches to it.
The bricks, they are smaller.
Yeah.
So the stud spacing is smaller, so you can't actually fit a brick.
Oh.
I've actually got 8 pairs of Lego shoes now. It's a bit of an addiction thing. But at least it's a limited field. I know a few shoe guys that just, they have to collect every single Nike Air, whatever. But no, thankfully, thank you, Lego, for not going overboard. Made by Adidas. And good luck finding them. They're very expensive online now.
Also not sponsoring this podcast.
Yeah. But why they should.
Okay, we're having too much fun here, clearly.
Sorry.
One of the things I really like about our, I guess, I don't know, what would you call us, friends? Friendship, is that we can both offer perspectives around what it feels like to be, say, successful or, not successful. So my story, and Marissa's got a similar story of really struggling in the school system with mathematics, and then as a teacher, just surviving the teaching of mathematics.
Totally.
Because that was very much the hardest of all of the things as a primary teacher that I needed to deliver. And I took it on as a challenge. I did the best I could with what I had and what I knew. But you've always loved maths, haven't you?
Well, I never really thought that I loved it, but I was always naturally good at it, but not in the traditional sense that I wasn't the fastest times tables guru. I actually distrusted rote learning. I can identify that now, but back then my brain was just busy going, but what if I accidentally think 7 times 7 is 46? A little bit of turn the number upside down, and it's just I've just programmed myself. I practice that way, and therefore that becomes my memory, I guess, of that number. So without actually meaning to, I developed strategies that supported it. I went with a known fact and added those together or placed them together. So, I'll be like, but I trusted it because I was always accurate. So I'd always be struggling at the end of that time test to get that last one done. And, then I started, I'm going to start at the end and move forward, move backwards through the test so that it, I know those last ones I'll get through pretty quickly, but so long as I give myself enough time for those tricky ones at the end. So weirdly, I clearly had a good, foundational knowledge of mathematics, and then developed strategies to make sure that I was a bit faster, a bit more accurate. But I did do all right in maths. But interestingly, I'm remembering one of our chats that we had, Melbourne Uni, Maths 101, whatever they called it, the very first session, 160 people, 140 people sitting in an auditorium, and the guys up the front, wish I could remember his name, says, so for those of you that struggled in maths at school, or felt that you did, this is going to be tough. And I'm sitting there going, he's not talking to me. And he got through that, you're going to have to work hard at this, work hard at that, and develop your knowledge, Now, for those of you that did all right at maths at school, it's going to be even tougher for you. And I'm just like, what? Because you don't have any appreciation for why others might find it difficult. You don't have any understanding of the struggle that people have with connecting with maths, with even just basic problem solving, and then having understanding that just saying it slower, louder is not actually a teaching strategy. That is not going to help that kid that is struggling. So finding ways to support those kids is going to be your biggest challenge, I think, in the maths teaching. And yeah, you're right. As we've recognised that we've got diverse learners, we've recognised that you need a different skill set for this job and a different skill set for that job. So why does the only pathway to success in mathematics look like 99% on a algebra test? It's just it isn't.
Yeah, I love that you carry that message with you from uni and to be set up with that. So what else have you got? You've got some more props. So teaching some other maths concepts. I think I see a graph over there.
Yeah, well, this is it could be a graph or it could be a tally.
Oh, nice.
So I could be collecting data on people's favourite colours, or maybe each of those just represent something. I quite like using baseboards, and but it does use a few plates to get them set up. Same data represented as a pictograph.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Turns into my line graph.
Oh, I feel like we could ask, what do you notice? What do you wonder? Or
Yeah.
something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
What
look,
might
I
the
wouldn't say
numbers
it's the
be on
most
the
efficient,
side? Yeah.
It's definitely not the most efficient way to draw a line graph. But gee, that's fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
But what a really nice visual way to represent data, like using the Lego. What do you think
Nice
this graph
buying.
might be about?
yeah. And
There's some really lovely data talks, I think, over at UCubed.
Yeah.
They've picked some graphs and they ask, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And then, but some of them are quite complex. And this is a really nice, simple one that I can just see a great way to tune into a unit.
yeah, a bit of fun.
Yeah, even elements of getting a rich assessment task in there to find out what kids know as well. Yeah.
Build, just have literally the topic is build me a graph out of Lego.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Super versatile. I was wondering from your time on Lego Masters whether there's anything that you've taken from that experience into teaching or even into life.
It's definitely, I mean, from my business perspective, it's given me a lot of tools that I can use as STEM challenges. Because the big thing with Lego Masters is they're all short, relatively speaking. Obviously, they want us to build something phenomenal, so you go 12 hours. But realistically, I rebuilt the Lego piano that we did in episode 7 or something. And bearing in mind that we built a guitar, a piano, and a couple of mechanisms to travel the ball, and an output to go to the tube again, all in the space of 10 hours. I've already spent over 30 hours rebuilding that piano. And yes, it's prettier and everything, but when you're building at home, you spend countless more hours on it. So, yeah, and you can use those same challenges for kids, obviously expecting slightly smaller results. But I think that it gave me a tenacity for really sticking at something. I guess also being in a room full of incredibly talented but very diverse people, it gave me, I guess, a new appreciation for the diversity in my class. And I've always acknowledged that you've got different strengths, different weaknesses, different interests, different. Your kids are all different, but understanding that I don't. You can be paired with someone you've never met before and achieve success. You can be struggling to communicate and still find success. Was powerful. Like that. Like I immediately want people to group differently. Don't always sit with your best mate. Your best mate's actually the least likely person to assist you because they reinforce what you think you already know about yourself. So actually being with someone that you don't really talk to out in the playground, you now are forced to communicate your ideas. You're forced to articulate and enunciate each of those things that you're thinking about it, and vice versa. You're having to understand what they're trying to communicate. So, yeah, I think that's possibly supported what I already knew, in my teachings. But it was like, yeah, cool.
I'm interested to pick Ryan's brain on coding. So I come from back in 2016. I did that was when I did the first primary maths science specialist training, and my end of the bargain was more the science side of it, and so it was STEM based. And I really grew a huge passion for coding, but more robots and more M-bots, and I've got a little what's his Cosmo at home that I and I bring that into class. But I it might have been you, might have been somebody else that said the reason why Lego is so good for coding is because it never gets old. Do you want to talk about that?
That totally sounds like something I would have said. And yeah, I guess that the cool thing that I've noticed, even with I've realised as I've basically built my Digitech curriculum. Thank you very much, Liz Barr. She got and it's funny. There was a lot of I was talking about the snowball effect of. I made one little decision to, all right, I'll take those EV3 robots and give them a go in my classroom, and that was from Inside the Brick, who sadly is no longer in existence. But Liz saw that was cool, and then gave me a bit of money to buy some more, and then slowly my program became what it was, or it is. But I realised that Lego, I couldn't do everything in Lego. But yeah, I've got the M-bots. We've got Spheros at school, Ozobots, and I love the variety of things. But the M-bots age out, and then there's a new M-bot too, but Lego somehow have managed to develop things that last 10, 12 years, and you can still use that 10, 12-year-old product because they continue to support the software. And there will come a point where that probably won't happen, but you'll be going, well, it's 15 years old, give it a break, But yeah, I love the fact that they also, Lego, realistically, they made a change somewhere in the 2000s where Technic Lego used to just be ones with holes in the sides, but it still had studs on the top. And now if you buy a Technic kit, it's almost completely studless. It's all tubes and bars thing, but you can still get Technic bricks that can connect that system. So it's completely integrated. So that very first Lego brick that was produced way back when, 90 odd years ago, can fit a brand new Technic kit through various bits and pieces. But yeah, I can use my old kits to add on to my current kits, and I guess the concept behind it hasn't changed. They're very versatile, and I guess as opposed to to use the M-bot as an example, sorry M-bot, I'm really having a crack at you. To rebuild that into something else is a true engineering challenge. It's these tiny little nuts and bolts. You can buy the expansion kits cheap enough and everything, but it's still a lot of parts to really get your head around. Whereas like Lego's current version, the Spike Prime, everything's very blocky and very easy to stick together, and you can very quickly pull them apart and build something completely different. The lessons are, even within the software, 45 odd minutes.
And you can change what you build?
Yeah, you can totally change what you build. Like, it doesn't have to... I brought along a couple of my Rover robots. Like this is the Spike Prime with a couple of little accessories on it. But that... most of the builds that are actually in the software are not driving robots. There's arms and there's color sensor things. Open the box to put it. Selects it'll take the red one, but it won't take the green one. Colors, things like that. And then Spike Essential, most of the sets are more this kind of thing, where it's build a Ferris wheel, that certain themes, and things like that. But they actually don't come with a driving robot, so I've designed this myself, and I personally think it's really cute. And it's so funny when I say, hey, it's a cute robot, and a couple of kids go, oh, thank you for enjoying my passion for strange blocky objects and still seeing the beauty in them. But yeah, you can just have a lot of fun with coding.
I like the Ferris wheel. I feel like the Ferris wheel, and this is the STEM part of me coming in, you could do a lot of electrics with that and try and create a little bit of a motor on it and light it up, and you could add other elements of STEM into it.
It's funny because that, like, without that color, that's a color sensor on the top, but that is actually a set within the software, and they got a lot of grief when they made this because they didn't put any gears in it, and a lot of people like the old version was We Do too that had gears in it, and I went, well, you know what, you could just spend 80 cents on a few gears and put them in the kit, and then you've got them, which is exactly what I've done. But yeah, it has a light display, it has a motor in there, and it's all about integrating. I call them hybrid sets because they got the standard Lego bricks, plates, tiles, and then they've got these Technic pins that then allows you to attach those Technic-y bits to the actual Lego and motorize it very simply, like it's direct drive. They're not massively fast or anything, but that was one of the beauties that the kids build it, and I said, so would you like to learn something about gear ratios? And I go, yeah. So, well, actually, I start off and say, would you like to make it go faster? I go, yeah. So I'm going to teach you something about gear ratios. And so it's awkward because the bits aren't, there's much simpler ways to add something like this. But I simply bring out this 24-tooth gear and an 8-tooth gear, and I'll say, how many times does 8 go into 24? And the kids, a few kids that just know their time, so other kids, 8, 16, 8, 24. Wait, 3 times. So, well, if that motor goes around this one has to go 3 times around every time this time goes around. Start that again. This one has to go around 3 times every time this one goes around once. So when I attach it like this, and we plug it in, and we take out the axle and this, Unfortunately, I need to plug it into the iPad to demonstrate. But and they get it started, and the minifigures nearly fly off, and the joy in their eyes, and they go back, telling their teacher, I just geared it up. I just 3-1. So and you just ratios. I still remember learning ratios. I was like, and the closest thing I had was scale modelling, and you see 1 to 18th, and I still didn't really understand it. And so on the bottom of my Matchbox scale was 1/64th, but it was still like, don't really get it. As soon as I got into gears, I got it now.
That's awesome.
I got it.
Yeah.
And so I feel that, even if 1 or 2 kids out of every one of those lessons remembers that as I understand ratios now.
Yeah. So is the ratio of that gear set 3 to 1? Or
Yep. So, and by be able to explain, when this goes around once,
the big one,
the big one goes around once, which is attached to our motor. Our motor, if we set that up to in the coding to full speed, that's as fast as it will go. But now, with that going this fast, this one has to. Does the teeth don't allow, unless it slips, that needs to go around 8 times to the 1.
Very cool.
So not 8 teeth, 3 times to the 1. So it's and they can see it, and we can slow it right down as well, so you can actually see this now going around this fast, and you can count it. So he goes, okay, 1, 2, and let's go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, cool.
Cool.
Yeah, no, it really is. It astounds me that we've in education that we've brought maths down to such a simple, almost repetitive, closed. Yeah. This is what we need, and I get it in an industrial, world, Western world. That's what we kind of needed. We needed a bunch of calculators. And then suddenly we went, well, no, actually, we can make computers so much better than we ever could be. So go back to what we actually are capable of. There's just maths is in everything. We look at art, and the reason we like it, symmetry. Stop it. So many things about our world that we adore that have a mathematical component to it.
Love it.
We look at a building and it looks lovely because we can see that the patterns in the architecture, and that didn't happen by accident. It's someone with a mathematical brain created that.
So I'm getting pretty full. This has been quite a feast.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's
been
good.
great.
It's good.
I was actually just going to, when you just put the first Lego code with a rover robot and you make it move forward, one of the first options they had in a version of the software was you put that block in and it would say move 10 centimetres. And I'd say, but I don't like doing that. I much prefer to change it to rotations. And I said, and there's a reason. And it's because if I put on bigger wheels, what do you think is going to happen? And if I'm thinking, it's going to move 10 centimetres, but I've got bigger wheels on it, is it still going to move 10 centimetres? And it just opens up that big conversation about circumference. And then, we can do things like putting a piece of paper around it and, doing the tear line and then comparing the two and then, talking about, and it's amazing how many kids don't actually, even in grade 5, circumference doesn't come, roll straight off the tongue. It's a beautiful way of connecting the coding experience of, making these robots drive around, do cool things, and a fundamental principle understanding, I guess.
Totally. We probably need to get you to wear the cool. We've got a cool dork hat for you if you want to take it, because I feel like you qualify.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm taking that fully as a compliment, by the way.
Totally. Well, so, did you have a look at the dessert menus? Is there anything there that?
Look, I think that one of the.
I feel like you almost answered
I was going to say I've covered a few of them. Yeah, I've done the
the
very maths.
building.
and I'd even possibly the play it forward. I think I've probably covered that a little bit too, that I just really want people to just really, even those mathematicians, those really the people that would self-describe themselves as mathematicians, as teachers, need to just embrace not being a mathematician, being, experiencing maths, enjoying maths, love maths, and enjoying those kids that have those weird and wonderful experiences and backgrounds and what they're, listen, just stop, listen to what they're trying to explain to you. Give them air, give them opportunity to say the things. Let others be the experts today. Let others, let that kid in the corner that, is sitting there and not paying attention to your math lesson, talk to him, talk to her, ask, what could I do in maths to make it more engaging for you? And then do a complete backwards lesson, start with their idea and then, let everybody else who thinks that they're maths geniuses actually embrace that, because I think that we'd all be richer for it. And then you don't have the same classroom management issues and disengagement problems and, you I don't know.
Start with play.
That's how I think. It really is. It's
nice.
Obviously this is, our focus here is, maths, but it can literally make everything that you do better. It can make every aspect, and you can have one playful experience that can be the springboard for your week. So in everything,
Yeah.
I know this is definitely an area that we need to focus on, because there's a lot of people doing and have been doing a lot of great work in the literacy stuff for years. I know that I've been to tons of great literacy PDs, but I haven't been able to experience as many maths ones, and I think that it's a shame.
Agreed. I heard a really nice, I don't know if it's a proverb or thing the other day. It's done the rounds, but we've got one mouth and two ears, so we should listen twice as much.
It's funny. I may have even shared that one with you.
Maybe.
Again, not a sponsor. Bernie's Music Lab, my very first job. It was one of my sales training things that he said. And it was arguably one of the best things that ever happened to me in sales. Is you've got two ears, one mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak.
Transferable across the industries.
Yeah.
So it's time to wrap up, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the question we have for you is, how do you see 4 sevens?
And do you have a favourite way of solving it?
Yeah.
4 sevens. How do I see 4 sevens? I see 4 sevens. Always went with strategies. I double it. That's how I see it.
So what did you double? Sorry.
I doubled 7. So 7. Well, quite frankly, and it's funny. I actually do a lesson in maths, not Lego related. That is, I call it the cheat sheet, and it is the times tables, but it's just a strategy to overcome it if you can't remember. And it's, obviously relying on those known facts and the simple facts, the things that you can do. Even if you need a piece of paper to double something, doubling 327 is hard, but it's an easier, even with the vertical, that's a lot easier than actually doing some sort of complicated multiplication algorithm. But it's just double 7, 14, double it again, 28.
The double.
So, double.
I think that's your approach, isn't it,
That is
Marissa?
my approach too. Yeah. Sam Miller did one similar, but she went the other way, didn't she? She went 3.
Well, she used a known
Three
fact.
sevens.
Yep.
Or, sorry, no, a favourite fact.
Favourite fact.
She has favourites, which I love. She remembers 3 sevens is 21, and then she added a 4th 7 on to get 28.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, look, thanks for coming. Oh, hey, Charlotte, did you want to come up and say hi?
Please, take a seat.
So, what's it like having a famous dad?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any perks?
Did you get any bonuses for me being famous?
What sort of stuff?
Well, my dad gets to come to my school, and people call me Lego. I can't remember.
You're famous by association. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I guess.
It was like, it's your dad on TV.
Yeah, and it's they sometimes call me a name that means to me that and they call me daughter of Lego Man.
Daughter of Lego Man.
Daughter of Brian.
Yes.
Daughter of Ryan.
It's pretty bizarre, actually.
Brian's daughter.
Going to lots of different schools. It's weird to be back at Ranger where I am, Mr. Evans.
Does Dad do a lot of Lego at home, I'm imagining?
Yes.
Do you have to go and drag him out of the Lego room to go to dinner and stuff like that?
Yeah, and sometimes I have to tell him, Dad, Nate, it's time for dinner.
So is it Dad and Nate that are doing the Lego?
Yeah, I guess it's mostly them, but I've still got a big Lego set from Christmas.
Okay. So, Charlotte, do you think you'll go on Lego Masters one day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just counting on it, I think. I think America just did Lego Masters Junior, or they're recording it. So she's like, oh, it's maritime for Australia, does it?
Very cool. Very, very cool. And what's Dad said that you were talking about some maths thinking in the car. I don't know, what sort of stuff are you learning at school or thinking about?
We're learning about, like, data. Like, we did this thing where we had this, like, chart and we canned out our favourite fruits. I did fruit salad and some people did fruit salad and some people did, and there was also, like, I think apple, banana, orange, and then there was some watermelon and grapes, and then there was fruit salad. Well, it said others.
Well, thanks for bringing your dad along so we could have a good chat.
It's okay.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of 4 Sevens. To access any of the resources mentioned in this episode, you can find links to these in the show notes. If you know someone you think would be interested in this episode, please remember to play it forward to them.
4 Sevens is produced by Maths Play and is a partnership project between Maths Play and motivating all maths learners to succeed. If you'd like to send us a message, you can do so at mathsplay.org/podcast.